of this heat race. Triple Crown format here for the Spec Miata series from the Autobahn Country Club. This is also round 9 of the Spec Miata series for the year, but race number 3 of the day. And what's going to happen is we are now having all the competitors that we had in the first 2 rounds. We are combining the points total together, and the way they line up is the point total as they have right now. So Brandon Collins, as we'll set the stage for you guys, Brandon Collins leads the way right now with 2 points as his total over Brant Alexander and Taro Kushida, who both have 6 points going into this final race. They are basically going to be racing heads up, but they have to finish 2 spots ahead of Brandon Collins, who is already on the pole, to come away with today's victory and win of today's race. A little bit further back, we'll have Mike Bernardi, who will probably start in the 4th spot in today's race. On this one, he's going to be hashing 9. He's got 9 points, and ahead of him will be Matt Keck, who has 7 points coming into this race. So a bunch of these guys right now, it's going to come down to a point total of how we end up in today's race. The top 10 starters for the race number 3 are going to be Brandon Collins on the pole, Matt Alexander in 2nd, Matt Keck will line up 3rd, Taro Kushida 4th, Mike Bernardi is going to line up on the 5th spot, Eric Halleck going to be 6th, Mike Ryan in 7th, Ethan Tyler going to line up 8th, Greg Zord 9th, and Dave Hicks will round out the top 10 for heat race number 3. We also have Art Zeismer, who will line up 11th, and rounding up the field will be Scott Ballard in the number 190 in the 12th spot. So interesting battle that we've had throughout this whole race day of the first 2 heat races. Now we're going to get ready for heat number 3 and see how it all plays out, because it's all going to come down to where you finish for your final point standing tallies. As pace car now starts the phone, we have Brandon Collins, who just jumped out of his Porsche 999 or GT3 Cup car, who has now just gotten onto the pole position here. Lines up right next to him will be Matt Alexander in that 157, and then Matt Keck in 3rd. We've now, like we said, had 2 races of 12 laps that have happened. We are now ready for race number 3 of 12 laps to take place. Kind of similar to where we're starting like we did in race number 1, where everyone is now kind of in a more realistic starting position than they're kind of used to. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here as we get ready for race number 3. Like we said before, track conditions have all changed compared to what they've been before. A bunch of rubber has been laid down. The temperatures have also increased as well, so the racing might get a little more heated up on the racetrack. So we'll see what happens as we come into this next race. Field has now started its first of 2 pace laps as they come around the Autobahn Country Club South track of turn number 2 and into turn number 3. Guys, the field is now starting to warm up their tires, using a lot of gas and brake, as well as a lot of weaving back and forth to get all the marbles and their tires cleaned up, ready to go, ready for racing action, as we are ready to go for 12 laps. And these beautiful shots brought to you by our drone here, flying over these guys into turn number 4, alongside them through turn number 4 and into turn number 5. Again, Brandon Collins is leading the way right now with 2 points set to the record with winning both races of the day. He needs to stay up front as long as he can in front of Matt Alexander and Taro Kushida and Matt Keck, as they have all been battling and jockeying for position on what they're going to be having as their point totals come to the day's end. So Brandon Collins with 2 points. Matt Alexander is the next person in line, who has 6 points, along with the number 60 of Taro Kushida. They all have 6 points, as well as Matt Keck. He's got 7 points to his record. So Matt Keck, all these guys right now at least have to finish 5 spots ahead of Brandon Collins if they want to have a shot at winning today's events. But nonetheless, they're all going to be racing against each other too. So Matt Keck, he can finish 2 spots ahead of Matt Alexander, and he can come away with a 2nd place finish. Or Matt Alexander can fall all the way back, and he can find himself outside the top 3. A lot is up on the line, and a lot to play for here. Or this whole thing could get shuffled out if Brandon Collins has some kind of faulty mechanical problem and he's not able to finish today's race, or he ends up falling all the way back to the 12th spot. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll find out our answer in about 12 laps times. As the field now continues to warm up their tires, weave back and forth, they head over to turn number 11 for the first of 2 pace laps. Coming across now as we get everyone ready to go, all the tires heated up. They've all know what to do here in this case and format. They've been here now twice earlier today. We're ready for race number 3 of this Triple Crown format. This is the second annual time we've been able to do this. We did it once last year on the North Track. The first time we're doing it here on the South Circuit. Then it's been wonderful action we've seen throughout the course of the day so far today. Really have been a thriller between both the Spec Miata and the SM2 battles that we've seen across the board here at the Audubon Country Club. Has been giving us a very entertaining day worth of racing. And if you weren't able to watch us earlier today, we did not live stream the first race, but we are having that broadcasted and recorded, so that will be up on the Audubon Country Club's YouTube channel, which if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share that to all your friends and family so they're able to watch it. We'd love to hear you guys' viewership. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to put in the comments section who you want to see win this race. We have a live moderator on there chatting with you guys right now as we speak, so if you want to have a conversation with him or just be giving us the race's end, please sure to like it in there and put your thoughts and comments in the comment section as we speak. As the field works its way around turn number 5, we'd like to also thank Sentinel for giving us our onboard shots here as we've been riding on board with the number 144, Brandon Collins, all day long. He's been giving us a thrill ride, starting up from the front in the first race, then having to go from the back to the front, and what happened in race number 2 of going off track a little bit, having to come from 12th on the grid all the way from the back to the front. He gave us a really good thrill ride being on board with him throughout the course of that race, and now he's going to do it again from on board, leading from the front of the pack with Matt Alexander right behind him as we get ready to go for race number 3. Field is now making their way around this backside of the Audubon Country Club in turn number 8, coming into the short chute of Patience of turn number 9 and setting up turn 10 for that long straightaway, which we should see the field get ready to go racing by doubling up, going 2 by 2 as lights are coming off on the safety car. Field is now doubled up as we see the drone is now getting into formation. Brandon Collins, Matt Alexander on the front row, Matt Keck, and Taro Kashida will share up row 2. Mike Bernardi and Mike Ryan, the Mike and Mike show, will be on row number 3. Ethan Tyler, Greg Zorg, row number 4, and Art Zeismer and Dave Hicks will round out the field of 12 on row number 5 here. Unfortunately, the row of 10 here, as Scott Ballard was not unfortunately able to join us, and Art Zeismer is on the back bumper as well, there in the number 9 spot. Field now coming out of the final corner of turn number 13, 2 by 2 lockstep formation. We are ready to see the green flag. Eyes are on the starter as we are now kind of rolling up to the green. And green flag is out. We are underway in heat race number 3 for the Spec Miata Triple Crown. Good side-by-side action here as Matt Alexander going to try to roll the outside as best he can on Brandon Collins. Collins now, and Matt Alexander going to go side-by-side. Collins able to get the better jump on the inside. He gets better drive. And Matt Alexander going to slide into the second spot. Huge checkup here from Mike Ryan. Greg Zorg going to hold up the inside of Ethan Tyler. Thinking about going 3 wide into turn number 3. He's going to make it work. Gets into the side of Mike Ryan. And one car goes way off. That's Mike Bernardi heading right for the wall. And he makes contact with the right side wall on turn number 4. Mike Bernardi hits the wall hard. Right now we have full course yellow, I believe, is displayed on the track. Full course yellow is out on track right now as Mike Bernardi hit the wall on turn number 4 on driver's right. He's continuing to move right now, but he is kind of been rolling. Mike Bernardi right now having heavy damage to the driver's left-hand side car. Looks like all 4 tires seem to be up. A little bit of suspension damage, definitely some bodywork damage, but it was Greg Zork who tried to go to the inside of Mike Ryan, kind of got into the side of Mike Ryan, which then forced Mike Bernardi to have to go wide, take a little bit of evasive action, and once you get up into the grass, you lose control of all the car itself, and he just went head-on straight into the wall there on the driver's right-hand side of turn number 4. So the field now going into pace lap formation here. Single file, Brandon Collins doing a nice job of slowing them down going into turn number 11 here. The field going to kind of make its way around, and they're going to go meet up with the safety car and the pace car on the front straightaway. Safety truck has now made its way over to the scene of Mike Bernardi over in turn number 4. But another lap 1 incident that's happened here in the Spec Miata series. Unfortunate to see what happened to Mike Bernardi, but heavy left front contact damage to that number 8 car of the Mike Bernardi's number 8 Spec Miata. So once again, we've had another incident that's happened here to start off today's race. Unfortunately enough for Mike Bernardi, he is going to be, I believe, out of this race early on here, as Matt Lauterbach has joined me back up in the commentary booth. Matt, thank you for coming back up here and joining me.
Did I miss more action already, Jordan?
Oh, yes, you have.
Oh, we got a big hit here. Mike Bernardi, the number 8. Such a tough break for him here. What a shame. His front end of his car is demolished on the left front of that car. Fortunately, he does have the door open and he is getting out of his car under his own power and okay, but a shame. It looks like he has lost his chance to compete for a podium spot in today's race here today. But we still got 9 cars left in the field after we had a couple of cars from last race unable to compete due to some crash damage.
Yeah, unfortunately enough, we've had to see this happen. I mean, Mike Bernardi, like we said, is just a passenger at that standpoint. Once he got into the grass, he was just trying to take evasive action of what was happening to his inside, which was Greg Zorg on the inside and then Mike Ryan kind of in the middle of all that. So Mike Bernardi just trying to do what best he can to avoid their troubles, but unfortunately caused a little bit of trouble of his own and just some misfortune that he kind of ran into. So an unfortunate start for Mike Bernardi here in this race, and he's going to have a lot of damage that he's going to have to fix up before the next race, next time out, we see the Spec Miatas.
He is going to have a lot of work to fix on. This has been a demolition derby for our Spec Miata racing today. We had Scott Ballard with issues, Emmett Ryan and Connor Ryan with issues. Connor is still out there, looks like, right now. Oh, no, he is not, actually. My mistake. So now we're down to 9 cars after Connor and Emmett both out of the race with crash damage. Emmett unable to get the car going in time with the rear suspension damage, and Connor had a lot of damage to the front bumper of his car that was basically permitting him from competing in this race today. What a shame.
Nonetheless, the rest of the field is kind of locked in single file formation here, as we're hoping maybe we can get about 2 or 3 more laps before we go back to green flag racing, but we hope to go green flag racing here shortly and get back to racing action as fast as we possibly can. But nonetheless, we're glad to see Mike Ryan was able to get out of his car under his own power, being able to get attended to the Audubon safety staff who were on the scene very quickly to attend to Mike Ryan, and we love to see that as well, especially when the incident happens.
Well, fortunate, though, that Mike was able to get out of the car and okay. I got to be honest, that was one of the worst crashes I've seen here so far at Audubon when Bernardi went off wide there. It looks like, watching the replay of it, though, right now, it looks like Ethan got a little bit loose to his inside. I'm not sure if Ethan got squirrely with another car, but Mike was just trying to avoid all that, and in terms of doing that, he kind of lost track of where he was going, and the car went off into the turns 4 area and just smacked that inside guardrail very hard. Fortunately, he is okay.
Yeah, it was a very tough break for Mike Bernardi for sure, but like we said, luckily enough, he's able to be all right. He was out of the car on his own power. Good to see he was all good and everything ready to go, but the field is continuing to pace around the whole field here as we now go through turn number 3. We've seen this Lexus LC500 pace car a lot today, unfortunately. We've had to see it, but it's been a really good time and a really good promotional shout-out for Lexus themselves, as they've been getting lots of good coverage time with this LC500 white pace car out in front of the whole entire field.
Good here through the first couple corners, and then he went off and just smacked that inside guardrail very hard. That is probably the deepest I've seen any car go through the weeds here. He was carrying a lot of speed, it looked like, and just lost control of his car once he got out in the grass going at that speed.
Mike Bernardi finished 4th in race 1 and then 5th in race 2, so he had 9 points total on the day so far. So right now, he's been able to have a good day, unfortunately, before that. But none of that anymore. We're getting ready to kind of get back to racing here. Let's look at what we can be looking at for the results like we talked about earlier. We had Brandon Collins on point for today's race. He's already gone 2 for 2. He's looking for the clean sweep here today and trying to go perfect 3 for 3 on race wins to give a grand total of 3 points on the day. Looking for that. But the first people who are going to try to stop him are obviously Matt Alexander and Taro Kishida right behind him.
Yes, they are definitely look to disrupt the balance on Brandon Collins' car and see if they can get around him. And they are hungry to try and get around him. It's going to be a single file restart here to get themselves going. But it'll be interesting for sure to see how this race plays out, as we'll have 9 laps to go this time by, depending on how soon they get Mike's car out of the way there. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to green flag racing here. But again, we happened on the last race with the Ryan brothers getting together and taking each other out. It looks like 9 cars left in the field.
Matt Keck right now is also sitting in the 4th spot as well in race 2. He was also one of those front runners. He finished 2nd in race number 2. I would expect him to also be one of those guys challenging for potentially this race win as well. He showed some really good pace later on in the 2nd race here, and I think, if he's able to use that pace that he had in race number 2, he could maybe come away with a good finish here for race number 3. He had the exact same pace as Brandon Collins had once Brandon Collins got in front of him. So if he can continue that same race pace and find that groove that he was in race number 2, I wouldn't expect more than for Matt Keck to be up into the 2nd spot, potentially even challenging Brandon Collins for this race win.
He may very well be up there. He was able to get around Taro and Matt Alexander and hold them off without any problem in the 2nd heat race. But now here trying to go for the ultimate prize, which is getting around the 144 of Brandon Collins. But he's got a lot of drivers behind him who are also hungry. Greg Sorg is looking for redemption after going off wide a couple in both heat races today. Ethan Tyler is right there after getting his car going and fixed. Art Zeismer is back there. Dave Hicks is back there. Mike Ryan is also back there. You're going to have a lot of hungry drivers here behind Matt Keck in the 0-1 as well, trying to get up in a top 5 position or fight their way towards the podium. But it's going to be difficult to do with the 3 drivers up there right now, and Brandon, Matt, and Taro right now all looking very competitive.
And Greg Sorg's had himself a roller coaster of a day as well. I mean, he started up towards the front around the 5th or 6th spot, and unfortunately when in the first race had to go a little bit of off-track excursion over in turn number 2, went 4 wheels off, had to fall all the way back to the bottom half of the field, was basically all the way back to dead last, then came back up to finish 11th in the first race. Race number 2 was a little bit more in favor when he had Ethan Tyler, his drafting partner, all the way through that whole race, was able to go ahead and finish 8th. Now he finds Ethan Tyler right behind him, but he's sitting in the 5th spot again. So very technically, Greg Sorg has kind of worked his way from the middle part of the pack to the back, and now has slowly made himself back up to where he was, and now he's looking for more.
He definitely could get more if he's able to get himself around Matt Keck in the 0-1, but Matt has had a very strong car for this race here today, as we have a lot of incredible drone shots here following this whole field around the track here under caution, as we're hoping to get the cleanup taken care of in turns 3 and 4. All the laps so far have been run under caution. It's been 4 laps so far in this race. 9 drivers left to battle it out in our SM field as of right now. It's Brandon Collins leading, Matt Alexander 2nd, Taro Kishida 3rd, Matt Keck, who we're riding with right now, in 4th. Behind him, Greg Sorg in that multicolored number 71. Behind them is the black and white stripe number 08 of Ethan Tyler. Art Zeismer in the 15 is in 7th. Then Dave Hicks in 8th, and Mike Ryan in the 320 in 9th. So 10 cars left to duel it out here in this field as we're going to come around, it looks like, to complete 4 laps distance in this race. And we're coming up on the halfway distance here already, Jordan, as most of this race has been run under caution so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Between the half a lap of this next half lap, and we'll be able to go green next time by. As we can see, the number 8 Mike Ryan's car, or Mike Bernardi's car, is on the back of the flatbed heading out of the track. So we should be going lights out this time by, as we just gotten the word that we are lights out, and we'll be going green next time by as we come back across the start finish line. So Brandon Collins, once again, your leader this whole race. He's been up front now for the last 4 to 5 laps. Matt Alexander running in 2nd, and Taro Kishida, your top 3 in the championship that we've highlighted earlier today, are your top 3 in the race.
And behind them, Matt Keck in the 0-1 with a great day moving up to 4th. Greg Sorg, the 4th place point man, falling back to 5th. Right, he's in 5th right now, running right now after a bit of a rough stretch so far in the first 2 heat races, trying to put something together in this last heat race. And we got a bunch of other drivers here that normally we don't talk about. Miles Eismer, or Art Eismer actually, in the 15 up in 7th. Then we got Mike Ryan back there as well. Some other drivers back there as well. Ethan Tyler, a dark horse every week, and Dave Hicks running a very quiet race so far, but up in the top 10. He's been making himself asserting himself there towards a top 10 finishing position in today's race, Jordan.
Oh, yeah, and these guys have been kind of hanging up tough there towards the back of the pack a little bit, but have kind of marched their way back up to the front there. Art Zeismer, Dave Hicks, and Ethan Tyler as well. Ethan has kind of pushed his way back up to the front, as you mentioned in race number 2. He's working together with Greg Sorg very well. He finds himself right behind him. Hopefully those two could potentially work together, and Ethan Tyler can find his way marching more up towards the front. Art Zeismer, on the other hand, has kind of had his elbows out for most of this race. Was battling with Scott Ballard earlier in race number 1, and then in race 2 found himself further back, kind of battling with Mike Bernardi and Mike Ryan throughout the course of race number 2. So Mike Ryan also a little bit further back has had a little bit of trouble throughout the course of the day today, but I would expect him to kind of be able to make his way up towards the front as we get ready to go green here with 8 laps remaining.
Here we are, the field going single file. It'll be a single file restart here to complete 5 laps in this 12-lap shootout here at the Audubon Country Club for our 3rd and final heat race in the SM class. Riding along with the back of the field here, Greg Sorg, Ethan Tyler in 5th and 6th, Art Zeismer in 7th, Dave Hicks 8th, and Mike Ryan rounding out the field in 9th. As the field going to make their way through to the braking zone, heading towards the front straightaway. They'll be all bunched up as we look on board with Brandon Collins. The pace car going to pull off towards the end of the pit lane, and the sun is starting to come out a bit more here, Jordan. Clouds starting to dissipate. Let's see how the rest of the field is able to maneuver through. As Brandon Collins riding on board with him, he'll see the green flag waving in the air, this time by from 33 miles an hour up to over 100. Green flag back in the air. We're racing at a car off already. Greg Sorg with problems and pulls off onto the grass. Greg Sorg's roller coaster day came crashing down a little bit as Art Zeismer moves into 5th over Ethan Tyler right now. So shuffling going on here already, and Greg Sorg in the 71 with problems and a battle for the lead. It looks like Matt Alexander and Brandon Collins going at it here. Alexander had to look the inside, but Collins pulled ahead to the outside. They go off into turns 5, into the turn 6 area. What happened to Greg Sorg?
Something must have happened to him, but he was able to be wise enough to kind of pull out of the way right before he got trampled over by everybody else. Anyway, further back up, we got Ethan Tyler, who just made the pass to the inside of Art Zeismer through turn number 6. He is now going to try to set his focus on the top 4 in front, who are evenly spaced out between Brandon Collins, Matt Alexander, Taro Kushida, and Matt Keck.
Here we go, jockeying for position. The battle right now is from 5th to 6th between Art Zeismer and Ethan Tyler right now. Tyler, who's also had a roller coaster of a day, trying to finish it off right with a top 5 finish here as we go through the rest of the field. 8 cars now remaining in this field. Here we go as we're on board with Brandon Collins and the Sentinel onboard camera, looking back at Matt Alexander, trying to find a way around Brandon. Brandon trying to pull off the clean sweep here as Art Zeismer giving chase to Ethan Tyler. Again, a battle for 5th on back in this race.
We've just been told that Greg Sorg has been dealing with a mechanical failure in this car, so that was the reason on why he pulled off the car, off the track, I should say. Good observation from Greg to know something was up here, get out of the way of his competitors, knowing that we were going back green, and get out of the way of everybody else. So Greg Sorg doing a heads-up job, thanking everybody else for the rest of the competitors for understanding and seeing what was happening there as the racing action continues to heat up as they now just came back across the line for the first lap of racing. Brandon Collins now leads the way over Matt Alexander and Taro Kushida in the turn 4.
It's the first lap of green flag racing, but we're halfway through this race as Brandon Collins ran about almost 0.3 seconds quicker that last time by than Matt Alexander. Brandon with a 1:42.587. Matt with a 1:42.867. Almost a full 0.3 seconds quicker as the field making their way towards the back straightaway here right now. Ethan Tyler putting some more distance between himself and Art Zeismer as Dave Hicks falls back to 8th behind the 320 of Mike Ryan. Here we go towards the back straightaway into the braking zone. Matt Alexander trying to find a way around the 144 of Brandon Collins, who has won just about every race so far today he's competed in.
Yeah, he's basically pulled out the near perfect sweep here. He's trying to go for the Holy Grail this time by if he can make it happen. He is just 6 laps away from making it happen, but there's a couple of competitors right behind him, and Matt Alexander and Taro Kishida, who are going to try to put a stop to that. Matt Alexander was able to close the gap a little bit under braking there that last time by into turn 11, but now they come to turn 13 into 14. Matt Alexander continuing to hound the back bumper and the tire tracks of Brandon Collins.
Well, Matt Alexander has to worry about a championship. It's at stake here. He came into today's race with a 29-point advantage on Brandon Collins right now. Brandon has won both races so far. Matt did finish in podium, but he finished second and third in those races. Now he's got to try and set his sights on a victory over his main rival in Brandon Collins right now, while also holding off Taro Kishida in that 60, who has been hanging out and back in third for most of the race today.
Also, we can start to see the rest of the field kind of space itself out a little bit as we go on board with Brandon Collins. You can look in the rearview mirror up at the top part of your screen there, seeing how Matt Alexander is kind of just hanging in the tire tracks, doing everything the exact same as what Brandon Collins is doing, maybe even a half a car length lower as we go in through turn number 6. But look a bit further back, you see Matt Keck there in the 4th spot. Ethan Tyler slowly closing up the gap there in the 5th spot there. Ethan Tyler trying to bring his number 08 black and white car into the mix here.
Well, the fastest lap the last time by was actually Taro Kishida in 3rd place, who's pulling up to the back of Matt Alexander. Kishida with a 1 minute 38 second .597 as these lap times are going up. Matt did run a faster lap than Brandon the last time by, but the top 5 here still pretty close together, it looks like, as Ethan Tyler is starting to gain more momentum on Matt Keck for the number 01 car right now. Here we go into the braking zone, and Brandon has the advantage. It looks like Matt slipped a little bit there. Taro pulls up just a little bit, but they're going to hang right with Brandon right now. Brandon Collins leads. He has 4 laps to go coming around this time by as he'll cross the start-finish line, as we are a 2/3 distance through this race in our final heat event for the SM class.
Both Taro Kishida and Matt Alexander are about 0.2 of a lap quicker than Brandon Collins that last time by. Taro is now starting to put the pressure on Matt Alexander. Hopefully, maybe he's trying to push him up to the back bumper of Brandon Collins to see if he can make a move and get these two jostling for position right in front of him. But we'll have to see further on. Taro Kishida is still hounding the back bumper of Matt Alexander as Ethan Tyler continues to close the gap on Matt Keck.
And the battle for first through third has evenly spaced itself away from 4th and 5th, as Ethan Tyler actually ran the quickest lap the last time by. Tyler with a 1 minute 38.345. He is all over the back bumper of Matt Keck right now, and if he gets around Keck, he could make this a very interesting battle here, as it looks like Collins gets a good run off that turn away from Alexander. Taro Kishida pulling up to the back of him right now, as Keck and Tyler go to battle for 4th overall. Now Taro with the look on the inside of Collins, but Collins pulls ahead. Oh, and Taro spins going into the turn down the back straightaway. 3rd place, Taro Kishida spins out. Looks like he was going to be a battle for 2nd down the back with Matt Alexander, but Taro Kishida slides into the grass. He's going to lose all that time, falls back to 9th overall on the track. Heartbreak for 3rd place.
That was a very interesting way on how Taro was able to spin. I think he might have gotten his right side tires just a little bit into the grass there and just lost the grip on the right rear, and it just sucked that number 60 car around. Unfortunate break for Taro, though, as he finds himself all the way in the back of the pack towards the 9th position. He's able to get it going, however, but unfortunately has lost all the ground that he tried to gain earlier. Now it just leads to a 2-horse race, and who can it be better than the top 2 in the championship of Brandon Collins and Matt Alexander, who are running nose to tail with just 3 laps to go.
Well, it's just become a battle between these two guys right now, as Brandon Collins trying to hold off Matt Alexander to pull off the perfect trifecta Holy Grail sweep in this Spec Miata field race today here, as they're going to make their way down to turns 5 and through turns 5 into turn 6. And Ethan Tyler sliding up the curve there. He hangs on to 4th right now, though, as Matt Keck. He's been quiet so far today, but he's been hanging around there as he is back into a podium spot in 3rd.
And what a great shot we are getting from our drone camera here in turn number 5, really showing how hard these guys are pushing these Spec Miata cars as they're just sliding through turn number 5, getting the rear end just yawed out as they're hanging on to the right rear corners of those cars as they're going through turn number 5, using as much apex curve as they can without losing the rear end of the car, just to kind of hang on to one another as they're pushing these cars around this 2.1 mile Autobahn soft track.
Well, Brandon Collins pulled a little bit ahead of Matt Alexander right now. Looks like Matt's car is really coming, or Brandon's car is really coming in for him in this part of the race, as they'll get 2 laps to go this next time by. Matt Alexander still waiting in the wings for something to happen, as more jockeying for position. Art Zeismer heading on to 5th over Mike Ryan in the 320 right now. These drivers, again, they've just been doing everything right today. They haven't been flashy, but they've just been keeping their cars clean, and they've been able to hang there in a top 10, and they're going to come out of today's race with a good finish.
And the best part is, too, is no matter where you are on track, you seem like to always have someone to race against. You know, these guys are all right now in lockstep formation in pairs of 2, it almost seems like. You got Brandon Collins and Matt Alexander running 1-2. Then you have Matt Keck and Ethan Tyler running together. Then Art Zeismer and Mike Ryan running together. Dave Hicks is kind of running a little bit by himself in the back, but he's also got Taro Kishida back there in order to be able to battle with him as well.
Well, we're going to see what happens here as the field making their way down this area of the track. Matt Keck leading Ethan Tyler right now, and then it's Art Zeismer over Mike Ryan for the moment. And here we are heading towards the back straightaway. It's Brandon leading over Matt Alexander right now. And Brandon going to try and hang on here with just a lap and a half to go in this race here. Matt Alexander closing in a little bit here, trying to see if he can find a way around Brandon Collins in that number 144 car.
That was a big slide right there by Matt Alexander there out of turn number 10. He lost a little bit of time there on the exit. Brandon Collins was able to get a good drive. Matt Alexander, a little bit of wheel spin as he was trying to hang out the rear end as much as he could, trying to get the best drive he possibly could, was struggling to hang on to their rear end. Nonetheless, they come through the braking zone to turn 11, and on their way to turn 13, they'll see the white flag this time by.
White flag going to come out in the air here for Brandon Collins, trying to pull off the trifecta here. He has just a few more corners to hold off Matt Alexander in the 157 right now. Alexander closing in the back, a little bit of brake lockup from Collins in the 144. It's not over yet between the top 2 here right now, and Alexander tries looking to the inside with the peak. He's all over the back bumper of Brandon Collins, on board with Brandon, who has a rear view mirror full of Matt Alexander in the 157. Alexander ducks to the inside, tries taking a look everywhere he can. Can't quite get around him here. He'll have a few more corners to try and size him up.
He's just trying to fill up the mirrors of Brandon Collins here, trying to get him to look in his mirrors instead of looking at the corner in front of him. It is Brandon Collins, however, still doing his normal thing of running his normal line, pulling a little bit of a distance away from Matt Alexander as they go through turn number 7.
Here we go. They're going to head down the back straightaway here. This will be the last real good shot that Matt Alexander has to try and get around the 144 of Brandon Collins here as they'll make their way down the back straightaway here. As we get the remainder of the field, it's Ethan Tyler trying to look on the inside of Matt Keck for 3rd overall. Tyler trying to go for a podium spot. It looks like Brandon pulls ahead of Matt just a little bit there, heading down the back straightaway. His car is really good down that backstretch. We got battles from 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and 5th and 6th. Tyler goes to the outside to try and take a look. Not quite able to do it. Now tries a crossover move on the inside. Final podium spot here at stake as the field going to come around the front straightaway here. They'll see the checkered flag. Brandon Collins, he's going to come around and he will win today's Triple Crown event for the Spec Miata class. Matt Alexander finishes 2nd. And Matt Keck, with a great run, finishes 3rd over the 08 of Ethan Tyler. What a race here today, Jordan. Carnage all over the track and an insane finish between a couple of great drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. We were able to see a good race in between all the competitors that were on track here today. But when it comes to the end of it, of the Triple Crown event, as well as all the racing that we've happened today, we've had 7 races. So 7 races on the docket today, and Brandon Collins has won more than half of them today, winning 4 races on 7 here today.
Brandon Collins has been impressive as we go through our top 10. Collins wins the race in the overall Spec Miata Triple Crown Challenge. Matt Alexander finishes 2nd. Matt Keck finishes 3rd. That's the podium. Ethan Tyler with a great run in 4th. Art Zeismer, an impressive day in 5th. Mike Ryan 6th. Dave Hicks 7th. Taro Kishida moves back up into 8th. Greg Sorg in 9th. And Mike Bernardi rounds out the top 10 in our 3rd and final heat race for our Spec Miata class.